Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Construct Innovate webinar series on innovation entrepreneurship. This is a brand new webinar series that we're just starting today. And it's going to explore ideas, methods, and case studies that showcase innovation and entrepreneurship, develop novel concepts, identify market opportunities, and tackle challenges related to getting new building products and construction services to the market. So my name is Jamie Goggins. I am Director of Construct Innovate, which is Ireland's National Research Centre for Construction Technology and Innovation. We're co-hosting this webinar with Engineers Ireland West Region. So this is week one of the webinar. So we're going to have the webinar run over six individual webinars each week, starting today. And today we're going to discuss innovation in the construction sector. So we're delighted to be three fantastic speakers today to talk about innovation in the construction sector. So the first presentation is going to be by Ross Coleman. He's the head of the high-tech construction and housing at Enterprise Ireland. And he's going to talk about a program that Enterprise Ireland have, which is Build to Innovate, which is an initiative by Enterprise Ireland on the Housing for All program that will support companies in their transition to a digital adoption and sustainability within the building sector. Our second presenter is PJ Rudden. So PJ is chair of the Innovation and Digital Adoption for Construction Sector Group at the Department of Public Expenditure, National Development Plan Delivery and Reform. And he's going to talk about the need for innovation and digital adoption in the construction sector. So to allow us to basically deliver the National Development Plan, which is the €165 billion plan for Ireland for delivering the infrastructure in Ireland between now and 2040. And then we have Claire Commins, who's the Innovation and Research Programme Officer at Construct Innovate, and she's going to talk about the research and innovation support that's available for the construction sector through Construct Innovate. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Ross, who's going to give the first presentation all around the Build to Innovate programme. So over to you, Ross.
Lovely. Thanks so much for that, Jamie, and thanks to yourselves and Engineers Ireland for inviting myself here today on one of my real passions around innovation in the construction sector. And the topic that I'm going to speak to today, and if you can't see my screen or whatever, maybe just give me a nudge on it, but it is in an area that's relatively new for Enterprise Ireland. It's working in the domestic residential sector. It's an initiative that's in 3 days' time will be 2 years old. So we're entering into our difficult toddler years, I suppose you'd say at this stage. But thankfully, we have made some great progress in those 2 years, which I'll speak to today. So look, as everybody knows, the Housing for All plan, it is a cross-government initiative, and many agencies and departments have been asked to get involved. Enterprise Ireland was asked to get involved in this for the first time in our 25-year history. We've been asked to take on a domestically focused sector. And as people may know, Enterprise Ireland, we are all historically we're all export-led job creation is really the mandate of Enterprise Ireland. So this is a very new and interesting area for us. I suppose we have had a long history of working with the construction sector in Ireland, particularly in the last 15 years. We've worked very intensively with the sector as it has gone on this just incredible export journey into Western Europe and beyond. And it's, I think, with pride that we in the sector can say that Irish companies are absolutely world-class at building high-tech facilities in Europe at this stage. And that success story hopefully is one that gives us confidence as we look at the other challenges that we have, as PJ will touch on in the National Development Plan and elsewhere. So what Enterprise Ireland has been asked to do, and there's two distinct actions in it. The one that I'm going to focus on today is the language that you see in front of you. And essentially that is opening up our grant aid supports to domestically orientated businesses that are delivering in the housing sector. The other distinct action that we were given 2 years ago was around actually Construct Innovate itself. So while that project had been in germination, it was asked that the team there put a strong focus on the residential sector in its early years, which you can obviously see from their suite of activity to date. So our vision for this is bold, perhaps, but we take that confidence, as I mentioned, of the success of our companies in Europe over the last 15 years. We know that our industry can compete absolutely at a world-class level, and we believe that that should be what we strive for in our home building sector as well. And I would acknowledge that we're doing lots of things really, really well at the moment, and we're doing some work currently to look at best practice internationally, and we are building a view that Ireland has some real strengths to it, but there is also areas that we can address as well. And when we went out and did our public consultation, and when we continue to listen to companies in this sector, we think that there are areas of common pain points that you can see there on the screen, that could be addressable from interventions that we could support with grant aid. And those sorts of addressable opportunities and the mandate that we've been given led us to create a strategy which is essentially delivering our suite of lean innovation and digital supports, grant aid supports, to the manufacturing sector, but also the home building and contractors as well. And more recently, we've been beginning to look at subcontractors too, and we're really interested in what impact we could make with those companies. But overall, the strategy should reflect and does reflect the mandate that we've been given, which is around trying to tackle the cost of residential construction. So that's the heading that we fit into under the Housing for All plan. So any of our supports for companies, we're trying to see that dashed line between what we are supporting them do and the potential for that support to reduce the cost of construction. So one of the key KPIs that I'm tracking is the productivity of those companies that we are supporting. And to date, we've supported 30 companies in those first 2 years. And we can see that those 30 companies are influencing the delivery, the productivity of the delivery of 30,000 units of housing over a 4-year period. And that's a key metric for us to see that coming on. I suppose to illustrate this a little bit further, what I'm going to do is talk about Formula One for a few minutes, and hopefully that gives you a taste and an appetite for the types of initiatives that we're undertaking. So what you can see on the screen there is a shot of, I think that's the McLaren team in 1993, and they held the world record for a pit stop, which was at that time 3.2 seconds. So 30 years ago, they were doing 3.2 seconds. And like, what a fine margin that is, like, in terms of one would say that perhaps how could you improve on 3.2 seconds? But certainly over those 30 years, improvements have been made, and the current record is held not by the Ferrari team, who you can see there, it's actually by, it's McLaren again, actually in late 23 to the 1.8 second pit stop. And what I want people to look at in these two photos is to compare the two photos that are 30 years apart, but almost at the exact same phase of a pit stop. So they're just at the end of the pit stop, and there's only one slight difference that I can see is at the rear right wheel of the Ferrari here, the person is just pulling back from tightening that wheel nut, where the photo from the McLaren, it looks like they're probably, you know, a millisecond ahead of the Ferrari there. And what I'd urge you to do is look at the difference between these two photos and see if you can see the identifiable one. And you might have to move the picture of myself over because it's blocking my view at the front of the Ferrari, which gives you a clue. So if you look at the McLaren, everybody has their hands up here and the car is ready to go for one last action. And that one last action is that there's a human being standing in front of the car. Okay, so that's the front jackman who is standing in front of the car, blocking its exit. And you can see that that individual is already leaning back and is preparing to take probably 2 steps away from the car to let it drive away. 30 years later, if you look at the front of the Ferrari, what you see here is an articulated jack. And when that person gets the green light, what they simply do is whip it away as you can see here in the final picture. And what I really like about this example is one, well, just like the continuous improvement mindset that is clearly at play here and the very tight margins in that sport. But actually what it is, it's lean driving innovation is what I believe this is a demonstration of. And this is something that is translatable into the construction sector. So given the time and motion studies that they did over the 30 years, they identified this blockage of the individual standing in front of the car, and they developed an articulated jack to save them, I don't know what that could be, 0.2 of a second, perhaps 0.3 of a second. But they came up with a new product to improve their time. And one of the examples, I suppose, translating this into the construction sector, there was a time and series or time and motion study done in Australia of a construction site. And they were able to see that in a 10-hour period, the average worker actually worked, so hands-on tools, doing something for 3 hours and 20 minutes. And by taking a number of actions, two of which that I remember was bringing food trucks onto site, and then the other one was the location of the tool depots on the site itself, they were able to increase that 3 hours and 20 minutes by 40 minutes. So a 10% increase by a simple series of actions to improve productivity there. And for us, like that's at the core of the initiative that we're trying to encourage companies to do, is to try to increase that level of, I don't want to say scientific approach to construction, but really that is what we're trying to achieve in terms of time and motion, identifying waste and seeking to implement that continuous improvement mindset to the process of construction. How we're doing it is through the suites of grants that I mentioned up top. We have the innovation grants that you can see here, as well as the digital and lean grants, which I'll come on to next. And I think what's important to note from all of these is that they are incremental in their nature. So an innovation voucher is a very simple, straightforward €10,000 grant that you can work on with Construct Innovate. Jamie and his colleagues there can work with you on that, all the way up to research and innovation grants of up to say €500,000 of grant aid against ambitious projects of multi-million euro expenditure. And we can fit in with a company, we believe, at any stage of their innovation journey and make a difference there. And what I think is always important for companies to understand is that they are likely innovating without even realizing it. All the time we speak to entrepreneurial businesses who are doing interesting things that they wouldn't call innovation or development, but is in fact something that we would be able to identify as an activity in innovation. Then the second area that we're seeing, I suppose, some really good interest with contractors, particularly at the moment, is lean and digital. And the area that we're seeing quite a lot of activity on is the implementation of the last planner. So that's essentially a lean project management methodology that seems to be getting quite a lot of traction here in Ireland. And the training of the team on that methodology and the consultancy time that's required for that is all supportable with Enterprise Ireland grant aid. And we've a couple of case studies that we've worked on, which I'll show you on that. But it's the same sort of concept that I'd urge companies to understand, is that this is incremental. It can start very small, very modest, introductory, all the way through to the operational excellence there in step 4, which is really quite a complex, lengthy assignment that companies would be undertaking. In terms of how we work with companies, so obviously we have been working with companies in the sector for many years and would have quite a bit of experience, but essentially we are taking a very hands-on approach to this. So we have a small team in Built to Innovate. We do an initial conversation or meeting with companies to understand where their interest areas might be. Then we have specialists in either lean, digital, or innovation that will come in and work with the company to try to flesh out what an application for funding might look like. And then there is, look, we are a government agency, so there is going to be some level of bureaucracy and form filling, unfortunately, and you will have goes through to approval, and then you carry out the project, and then you draw down the funding afterwards through a grant claim, and that's how we work with companies. In terms of the results, as I mentioned, productivity is the catch-all target that we are trying to identify, productivity that can impact on the cost of delivery. And two companies that have delivered this already would be Signum, who are a timber frame manufacturer in Croom in Cork, and they've used our supports to enhance the productivity of their factory. So that's lean training on the line, as well as the implementation of enhanced ERP systems, which has enabled them to become a more productive company. And then secondly, as a contractor, Clancy we have worked with on similar kind of concepts, but very different because it's on site. But Clancy, I have to say, really progressive contractor, and they have implemented the last planner project, as I mentioned, as well as digital tools, and they've gotten some really strong results that they're able to track from that and identify the return on investment from that. And they won an award last week or the week before, actually, for their implementation of the last planner. So my congratulations to all of the team at Clancy for their continued success on that. But finally, as I mentioned, we are trying to be a high touch, high engagement type initiative. So the simplest way to take this forward with any interested parties is send an email through to that mailbox there or directly to myself, and we can pick it up and have a conversation. And finally, look, if you're not in the residential sector at all, these grants are still available to companies who have export ambitions and more too. So I'd be delighted to talk to companies in that space who may not have an active Enterprise Ireland relationship. But that is it from me, Jamie, and I'll hand it back to yourself at this point and stop my share.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ross. It's great. It's great to hear the the initiatives, I suppose, from the support that Enterprise Ireland give to Build to Innovate, but also examples of initiatives that people have got involved in. I do love the analogy of the Formula One, and when I think about the move towards offsite manufacturing and modern method construction, we can see that those companies are doing that. They are they're using digital tools from even imagery, but collecting data of how long it takes people at each of their tasks, how many people there are in that, and they're understanding where they can get more efficiencies into the system in there. So it's you have to obviously measure first and monitor, and then you can understand, and then you can try and improve the process. And sometimes it's not any additional investment is needed. You might not need any more equipment or people or so on. It's actually that you can be more efficient by the way you organize your teams and the way you work and so on. So that's great. So we're going to, so if anyone has any questions for Ross, there's the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. So within the Q&A there, you can type in your questions. That we'll deal with all the questions after the presenters. All the presenters come together. So we're just, PJ Rudden is having a little bit of technical problem getting in, so hopefully we'll get him in before the end of the webinar. But we'll move over to Claire. So Claire Commins is the Innovation and Research Program Officer at Construct Innovate, and she's going to talk about the research and innovation support for the construction sector through Construct Innovate. So over to you, Claire, if you can share your screen there.
Thank you, Jamie. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen, and I hope that everyone can see my information. Brilliant. Can I confirm everyone can see my screen? You've got it,
Yeah,
Jamie?
perfect.
Brilliant.
Thanks,
wonderful. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Claire Commins. I am the Research and Innovation Program Officer here at Construct Innovate. I'm delighted to have this opportunity to speak with you today. Today's agenda will follow 3 questions. What is Construct Innovate? How is our methodology innovative? And what value does our innovative methodology offer? Construct Innovate is Ireland's first and only national research centre for construction, technology and innovation. The detailed description of needs for the Irish construction and built environment sector was instrumental in the establishment of this centre. We have €5 million of funding over 5 years. We are one of the 9 designated technology centres supported by Enterprise Ireland, and we are hosted here at the University of Galway. Our vision is making Ireland a global research and innovation leader for sustainable construction and built environment technology. Our centre here, we are guided by our values, which include collaboration, transparency, agility of operation, and ethics. Construct Innovate is the interface between academia and industry in the Irish construction and built environment ecosystems, with an additional professional focus on modern methods of construction, digital adaptation, and sustainability. But what does this methodology look like in a working scenario? Construct Innovate is the professional link between academia, industry, and policy and standards with an international perspective through innovation clusters and stakeholders. Our methodology here at the Centre is integrated, purposeful, and well thought out, bringing together 8 research performing organizations, 23 multidisciplinary groups, over 300 researchers, policies and standards, and partnerships with those innovation clusters and stakeholders, all of which are centered around Construct Innovate's 5 guiding pillars of thought, which include productivity, affordability and cost, quality and safety, sustainability, skills and training, and collaboration. The big piece here is this centre is industry-led. Our members define our research challenges. But what does this methodology look like in a working scenario? What is the actual business translation of this integrated methodology? It is in fact research proposals developed by our members, working groups, academia, or working groups formed by members around a specific research topic. Construct Innovate offers members a platform to mitigate, solution, or triage some of our industry's biggest challenges and some of our industry's biggest threats. Membership is open to all individuals and organizations with an interest in construction, built environment, technology, and innovation. All of those members can submit proposals on research topics, be informed of all published centre results, and participate in those working groups. Our members represent a broad spectrum of the Irish construction industry. Examples of such include civil engineering, architecture, facility management, project delivery, and a full list of these members is located on our website. Our industry-led integrated methodology not only brings together representation from across our industry, but it also allows us to have multiple touch points with multidisciplinary research groups, partnering research performing organizations, and academic partner centers. Question 3, what value does our innovative methodology offer? Research. Construct Innovate is a facilitator and funder of world-class research. Construct Innovate brings together the whole value chain in construction and built environment. Our research here at the Centre speaks for itself, allows us to connect with our customers, our industry partners, and wider at a community level. Tying back to our values, which I mentioned in the first slide, we have open source information, which is widely shared, tying back to those values of transparency and ethics. We are an industry-led centre, a centre for all, providing solutions on our industry's biggest challenges and threats. We now communicate and collaborate across academic industries and various professional methodologies, allowing for greater connectivity, inclusivity, and reliability of material. We have a corporate voice that is impactful and anchored in research. Again, what does this value chain look like in a working scenario? The business translation, what does this translation look like in a working scenario? Our inputs, our integrated methodology of collaboration with our 65 members, 300 researchers, and 2 academic industry meeting days brings together outputs in relation to research, training and upskilling, and business opportunities. I'll look ahead and I'll look back here. To date, we have delivered over 10 research proposals, 18 seed fund project awards, And Construct Innovate has secured an additional €2 million in funding under a government programme to invest in specialised equipment and testing facilities. Again, with regard to the value of our innovative methodology offer, training and upskilling, we offer a postgraduate diploma in construction innovation and also a graduate diploma where we link industry specialists with recent graduates. We also have delivered to date over 22 webinars and 2 academic industry meeting days where challenges and questions are facilitated from our industry. We have another AIM Day, which is scheduled for April 30th. In closing, I would like to encourage you all to reach out, connect, communicate, and collaborate. I would love to answer any of your questions, fill in some information gaps, or speak with you more on a one-on-one level. If you have any questions, please add them to the Q&A. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thanks, Claire. That's great. So anyone, any questions for Claire or for Ross, put them in the Q&A button at the bottom, and we'll deal with those after all 3 presenters. So just conscious of time, so we'll move on to our 3rd speaker, which is PJ Rudden. So PJ is chair of the Innovation and Digital Adoption for the Construction Sector Group at the Department of Public Expenditure, National Development Plan Delivery and Reform. So, you know, he's one of the big brains behind actually Construct Innovate appearing, but also lots of other things like Build Digital and other great initiatives that is helping to join up the thinking across government departments, but also joining up industry with the public sector and with academia. So there's lots happening there. So he's going to give us a little bit of a flavour for what's happening and why we need innovation and digital adoption in the construction sector to help develop or deliver the National Development Plan. So over to you, PJ. You just have to turn on your mic there, PJ, sorry.
Thank you, Jamie, and welcome to you all. Good afternoon. I'm going to do a whistle-stop tour through very quickly what the work of the Construction Sector Group is. Very short and very quickly move then to personal stories of innovation and entrepreneurship. Some of them would have probably saved the Irish state between 50 and 100 million euros. And I'm not kidding about that. It didn't happen today or yesterday, but I mean, one of them was on a project that we had a budget of 1.3 billion and bringing a gas pipeline from Scotland to Ireland. And it was a lump sum fixed price contract. And we brought it in under the lump sum fixed price contract. Could I just see the slides, please?
You might need to share them, PJ, because I don't think we have a copy of the slides.
All right. Okay. Well, I'm going to then go through this very quickly. Okay. The Construction Sector Group is the bridge between government and industry. It was set up by government in 2018 when the first National Development Plan, 10-year plan, was published in February 2018. This was a time when the industry was still recovering from a previous severe recession, which commenced 10 years earlier. In 2019, DEPR, that's the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform, commissioned a report from KPMG. It was delivered the following year and called a Report on the Economic Analysis of Productivity in the Irish Construction Sector. It made for some stark reading. It showed an industry that had lack of regulation. Both skilled and unskilled resources were limited. There was a limited use of BIM and a limited investment in off-site construction. And we did not compare favorably in terms of productivity with other member states, particularly those in Scandinavia and Middle Europe who were really 10, 20 years ahead of us. And I have to say, regretfully, that they're still 10 or 20 years ahead of us. Because the work we've been doing has started very, very optimistically, and we're meeting obstacles that we're enduring in the industry, and that we take quite a number of years to sort out. In consultation with Enterprise Ireland, who have a track record in applied innovation, DEPA's reaction to the report was swift. The CSG was immediately set up. It set up the subgroup on innovation and digital adoption, and I was appointed as subgroup chair in the first week of September. That was about 2 months after the report landed. The 7 highest priority actions were chosen and supported by fellow members, but an action leader was appointed in each area. They're the 7 actions. They're grouped there together in a hexagon to demonstrate that they each depend on the others. So it's if you like, it's a composite project of innovation and digital adoption. The digital adoption is down here, number 7 in the Build Digital project, which has had its problems as well. Just going on to the next slide, then you see the 7 actions and the action leaders. Sorry,
PJ, I don't have the full slides. I'm just pulling out slides.
All right, okay, that's all right. Okay, so according to my take on innovation and entrepreneurship, it's a very personal story, as I was always interested in innovation. And what I've done is, as you know, innovation is it's the creative skill to introduce new products and services to the market, whereas entrepreneurship is a process of building new and profitable businesses. And with regard to innovation, I have been involved in innovation for about 40 years now. And while the examples of it have changed radically, the skill set hasn't really changed, because if something is a new piece of innovation, we tend to ask 3 questions. Well, is there a better way of doing this job? Number 1. Number 2, does it save time? And number 3, does it save money? And examples of innovation, I would say, are building information modeling, which is somewhat disruptive as well, electric cars, vertical farms in an urban scene, 3D printing and energy storage. In entrepreneurship, it's a business, building a business. So what you're doing is you're managing, planning, communications, marketing, commercial, project management. And it is really a disruptive technology. What are examples of these? Well, Ryanair is an example of a disruptive technology, which is very, very successful. The Internet of Things and all of the other areas that are mentioned in terms of the whole AI space and innovation in the digital area. So, I mean, on examples, I would say the first piece of innovation that I experienced was when I look at my CV, I have about 28 firsts, and that is, I was the first engineer to apply a certain innovation. I'm not going to go through them now because there isn't time. But if we take the rumble strips on the motorways, waking you up if you're tending to fall asleep, and they're connected with the ice warning station, which is a mat under the road surface, and the variable message sign to warn you that that's ahead. That was an innovation that I created in 1992 on the Dublin-Belfast motorway. A directional drill, you hear about HDD pipelines. That's the horizontal directional drill. It's old hat now, but that was created under the Boyne estuary to save having to cut a gas pipeline across the Boyne estuary, which was an area of conservation. And instead of being taken probably a year and a half to construct, it took about, I would say, looking back on it, it took about 4 or 5 weeks. Was it the best way to do it? Yes, it was. Did it save time? Enormously. Did it save cost? It did somewhat, not hugely, but it did save cost. I prefer, though, the examples I have of entrepreneurship. There was a project called Gas Pipeline to the West. It had an innovative contractual history in that it was built in the year 2000, 2003. And it was a new shared risk contract approach adopted to deliver the project on time and within budget. The particular pipeline had a budget of 400 million euros. And it never stopped raining that year. So we had to make ourselves independent of weather. So we literally built Noah's Ark to make the contractor independent of weather, so that they could, it was a virtual road was built along the pipeline, particularly in areas like the Midlands, where in fact the whole area between the town of Moate in County Westmeath and the town of Ballinasloe is a bog. You might say, well, there are sections of it that are bog, but no, originally that was all a bog. And so we had to construct a road in there to get machines in. There were 3 contractors on the job, 3 of the major contractors now, and they had 1,600 staff. It was built in 1 year. And the innovation in it was to construct the road, to get it built in 1 year. And it was delivered on time and within budget. Why? Because I took the decision to take of the 400 million euros in the budget. There was 395 euros towards the construction of the pipeline. There was 5 euros of a contingency budget, which is a minute percentage of the budget. But I approached the contractors and I said, look, if we made you guys independent of weather, would you deliver this on time? And they said, well, maybe we might. And I asked the question again, if you guys were given 5 million up front before you spend it, if we use our contingency budget, will you go away and buy sheet piles and railway sleepers to make yourself independent of weather? It's how Caesar conquered Gaul. It mightn't have been innovation at the time, but it worked, and they delivered it on time. And there was gas in Galway for that Christmas, and down in the Shannon Estuary for that Christmas. That project, when I first mentioned to the CEO of Bord Gáis, who was the client, that we should take the 5 million and give it to the contractor up front, he assured me that he'd get fired first and then I'd get fired. And I said, no, this is not waste of money. This is risk management here. And he went away and slept on it. And he came back and he said, you're right, and we'll do it. And we did it. And it didn't cost any more. And it was the celebration of the countryside at that stage. I mean, 350 kilometres from Commins Beach in County Meath, across the Shannon at Lone, over to Crockwell, turning south, down into North Cork, which created a second bypass of the Cork-Dublin pipeline. The saving, the claim would have been somewhere between 50 and 100 million. I have no doubt. I've no doubt about that. And that was the general view at the time. So we saved about 50, somewhere between 50 and 100 million. But not only that, there was no dissension on the project. It was all, and at the end of the day, I said to the contractor, who I won't name, but he's notorious for claims. How did you not claim on that project? And he says, PJ, we were never given the money up front in our lives before, and we're not claiming again. And that's a fact. He could nearly guess which contractor it was too. Agile project communications. In 2009, I was then sent to the Collar Pipeline, which was one of the most controversial contract in the history of the state, where a group of landowners in Rossport and Mayo were jailed for 94 days. They were going on hunger strike in that area. They were blocking roads. They were threatening to commit suicide, and that project would not have been brought in. It was the Shell Corrib project, and that project is still giving us 35% of our gas, and it was really a basket case. So I went down there, and Shell, who were the employer, said, "Well, look, we've changed all our consultants. You're the integrated consultant. You have to make this work now." So I did, and the first thing I discovered was that there was no trust in the organisation who were running the project, and so what we did was we made ourselves a buffer between the contractor and the employer, and to transform community relations. They said, "Oh, Peter, you'll have to come into our offices for our meetings." I said, "No, we're not going into your offices because the locals will not go into your offices." So we set ourselves a buffer. We rented a property out the road outside Belmullet town, and we gradually built up trust among the community. And that trust transformed the project. At the time, Shell had spent about $1 billion, and there was nothing built other than two pieces of the project that needed a piece in between. And it was delivered. It wasn't delivered on time, and it wasn't delivered on budget, but the country got a new supply of gas, which will still last. And you know what the situation was this winter with energy costs and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, that project won Project of the Year by public vote. And the local community thanked us profusely, and I still remember them for the people that they were. That's entrepreneurship in a large scale. And finally, I was in a consultancy that was water and roads principally, but you know, the world started to change, and it wasn't just water and roads. There was energy, there was the circular economy, there was environment, there was project communication. So I, with the agreement of my board, I embraced these new businesses and moved away from water and roads and set up an integrated business, which in fact carried the company through the recession. And it's a well-known company who still do great work. And that was another piece of real entrepreneurship. It took about 10 or 15 years to do it. I won't bore you with any more, but that's basically, it's not as smoothly running as I would have been with the slides and so, but I want to thank you for listening, and I'm very happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Brilliant, PJ. Thanks a million. So that's our three presenters. If Ross and Claire could please put on their cameras again, that's fantastic. So if anyone has any questions for the panelists, please post them into the Q&A function at the very bottom of the screen there. So I'm just going to I'll start off with a couple of questions here. So PJ, I want to have you on the screen there. I suppose, you know, this the setting up of the construction sector group in there, sitting in the Department of Public Expenditure, National Development Plan Delivery and Reform. I mean, I suppose was a game changer a number of years ago in there, and bringing those 7 actions together. I suppose you probably can't emphasize enough the importance of being in the middle of the government departments and linking in industry and the wider thing. I don't know, do you want to comment on that a little bit further?
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. I suppose the most important word is collaboration. And it was a collaborative approach, and still is a collaborative approach. Government departments are known for their collaboration, even among themselves. And I mean, I'm the bridge. I've one foot in government and one foot in industry. So I represent industry at all the meetings with government departments, and I represent the government departments with all the meetings with industry. So I know what's possible and what's not. But I mean, we've done a lot of really good things. I have to say, the Construct Innovate project, which is one of the 7, Jamie, is the shining star. And credit must go to Enterprise Ireland in the first instance, and to yourselves. And I was listening to the tail end of Claire's presentation there. It's every bit the shining star, and I'm delighted to be with you today.